What's up, nerds? My name's Brother.
And I'm Matt.
And we are
the Beard Bros.
That wasn't fun.
I didn't know that we were going to harmonize.
The Beard Bros.
Sorry, you had to endure that. It's been a while since we've had an episode, so
back.
we're kind of excited about it a little bit.
It's been too long. Way too long.
It's been at least one long. And
one long time.
It is exciting for us to be able to come back on this game. Commissioned their first expansion, The Call.
Yeah, and we've
baby.
actually talked about the commission in the past.
Yeah, absolutely we have.
I call it the commission.
The commission.
We've talked about commission in the
Because
past.
technically the apostles were the commissioned.
It is.
Yeah, so it checks out.
But this is their new expansion called The Call, and it adds quite a bit to the game. So.
Yeah, and I mean, to be completely honest, we played one scenario, and we played it several times and got through, and you and Aaron played a couple more times.
We played, there are several scenarios, and there are several ways to play them. But before we get into that, why don't we talk about the base game, because it has been a while since we've talked on it.
And I think we did a Beard Bros episode on commission, we'll link to that in the comments, and probably put a card up here on YouTube over here on the side of the Great, now I got to do that in post. That's freaking perfect. But let's talk a little bit about commissioned. It is, for lack of a better way to explain it, bare bones, it's reverse Pandemic.
Yeah, and I think Pandemic is a pretty well-known game. You're trying to stop the spread of disease. In this case, you're the early church, and you're trying to spread the church across the ancient world.
Yes.
So, and it's a really well done game. There are several modes to play it. Really, like the most base one is just like you're trying to get churches in all of the cities across the area.
Yeah.
And you don't want to extinguish 5 or you're done.
Out of here.
Yep. Super fun and just brutal.
The very first time I ever played commissioned, you pull these trial cards. Excuse me, the call. You pull these trial cards, and we'll kind of talk about that here in a little bit. But one of them was basically you tried to fjord the river from like Oregon Trail. It was like there's a flood in your region, and you dead.
Yep. And
we didn't spread fast enough, because like that's the name of the game, right? It's like you want to spread out.
And you know when you're playing the kind of the cards that are coming after you've played a few times, so you're like, if I don't spread out now, it's going to be big trouble.
Yeah. So now whenever we play, we get the heck out of Dodge, like almost immediately. We're like, hey, we'll write
scatter. Yeah.
And I think that was like the whole books of the Bible idea, right? It's like, no, I'm out of here, man. I'll write you a letter. I'll send you email, you know. Oh man, so that's base game commissioned. It's going to be available in the Kickstarter, so make sure that if you don't already have it, get it. Because you will need it. You will notice the difference in the size of the box immediately. The main game has the board in it. So you want to make sure that you get that.
You'll need the main game to play the expansion.
Yeah. Some games aren't like that. This one
is
This one most certainly is. So let's talk a little bit about just basic gameplay of commissioned. So you're moving around. You're taking, church members. There's these little white cubes from place to place with you to try and do that. There are a couple different ways that you can move. You've got a fellowship move.
And you have a missions.
And a missions move. And they are different.
Yes.
Like, don't mess that up.
It's just kind of either are you visiting between church to church, or are you going out to put out a new church?
Yes.
So that's the easiest way to
fellowship is like this little cube decides to go over here.
He's going to a church that exists already.
A missionary move is like, well, let's pretend like this was over here. This guy goes down here. He takes one with him. Boom.
Yep.
That's a mission. You have to leave one behind. There's a lot of different rules. We're not going to get into that. This is not a rules breakdown. But those are the two major kinds of moves.
Yep, and you have apostles, you have missionaries, like you said, you have the church members that are on the board. So that's kind of the basics of the games. And there's some in and outs, kind of depending on what scenario you're doing, what your final goal is.
Yeah.
So it really, like, the beauty of just the base game even is there's so many ways to play it.
Oh,
and there's a whole other side to this board as well.
You want to just flip it?
How about later? Just like a little bit later, yeah.
Yeah.
But so the expansion, the call, brings about 2 new apostles. You have Phoebe and you have Priscilla, and they are bringing like their own unique set of powers into the game. So the other apostles kind of have their, we're going to stop missionary stops, we'll stop the apostle stops, we'll let you grow a little faster with your churches. These 2 are going to come in and work towards helping you be able to stop some of the things in the expansions. So
yeah, it's very. I mean, like in the Bible, these were deaconesses, and so what they did was they helped the apostles to get the things done that they needed to do.
Yep.
They tended to the day-to-day stuff. So if you read in the New Testament, it kind of talks a little bit about both of these women and their roles and what they did, and I would say that this is pretty well true to form.
Yes.
So obviously it's not a one-to-one, but it's pretty close, and their powers are pretty interesting. I know that I played Priscilla, and she has the ability to deal with the change, the things that are holding other members and even herself.
And that's
back.
a whole new module in the call.
Oh, yeah.
So she's able to kind of help alleviate those some. The chains don't have to be used in the expansion when you play. They can be kind of put in and out in all the different scenarios, but when you add them, they make the game a whole lot harder. And you kind of said we played the initial scenario several times.
Yeah.
And Aaron and I said, why don't we start with the hardest one with the chains,
let's just go
the ins
for
and
it.
outs. And if you want a very, very challenging game that you probably won't win for
ever
a good bit, not ever. It's going to take some time. You have that option here. If you want a challenging game that is more winnable, you have that option here. So it's nice to kind of be able to add and subtract and play the different scenarios.
Yeah.
And one thing we didn't mention, and I think it's really important to mention, is how well Pat and Kat did making the base game and the call, just using biblical references in the cards, in the books, in and out. It definitely can be a teaching instrument for homeschoolers, for churches,
absolutely.
For me, for you. It's really good stuff, very well thought out.
There's scripture on every card. So even on the trials, on the bad things, it's hey, at the bottom, if you really wanted to, you could go and read this passage and kind of understand a little bit about why you need to hide from persecution and you couldn't move, kind of a deal. So it really is, even if you're not a homeschool Christian family we are, separately, not together. If we lived in the same house, we would be. But our families, plural, are we're in that camp. Even if you're not, this is a great historically accurate game. So it talks about how hard it actually was to spread the early church. Yeah. And if you want to experience that, have we got a scenario for you?
Yes. So you kind of mentioned who this game was for, and I talked about who else could this be for?
Honestly, I think that this game is for people who are heavy on strategy, high strategy gamers. People that this isn't really. I wouldn't necessarily say min-maxers. So if you don't know what that is, then it's probably not you.
Just
but people that are trying to exploit and get the best way to play the character, because it's just going to be completely different.
Yeah.
This is a really great problem-solving game.
Yeah.
So hey, you've got this thing that happens, this really terrible trial, or Paul, who just loves to be in prison. He can't move,
Can't help himself.
It's how are we going to do what we need to do? Which in this scenario that we played, the Council of Jerusalem, we have to get all of the apostles to Jerusalem with the missionaries and all of the books of the Bible.
Finding all the word cards, collecting all of them.
And then we have to spread back out and take all the legalism tokens off the board. If you love to problem solve, I would say that this is for
definitely
you.
a planning ahead, working together strategy game that is going to vary and have a lot of replayability, because there are extra trial cards you can add. There are harder trial cards you can add. And the order that they come out, it's going to change the game completely.
Absolutely.
So it's just a ton of replayability.
Not to mention that we mentioned that there are a lot of different apostles and characters to play as, and so you can switch it up and try different things. There's recommended based on who is actually there doing the thing in the Bible for that particular scenario that you're playing, and the scenario will say, hey, we recommend playing with these people, but I mean, honestly, the replayability is just as many times as you want to.
Yep.
My father-in-law loves this kind of game. I actually gave him this game. He used to play
Axis and
Allies, the 1942 OG edition, and he would play single-player Axis and Allies because he wanted to know each and every move and what the best way to do if you got into this pocket in this scenario. And so when Pat was like, hey, do do you know anybody who would like this game? I was like, yes,
I do.
I absolutely do.
And that's something we didn't mention is the call actually comes with a solo option.
Yeah.
That I haven't been able to try yet, but I'm interested in trying. It might be something your father-in-law would really enjoy. He won't have to play all 5 players.
Well, then he might hate it. Who knows?
Who knows?
But yeah, I mean, I think that the components-wise, it's wooden cubes. Your elder staff is wooden. Mm-hmm. Mini cards, they've got a nice linen finish on them.
Yep.
The ones in the expansion do anyway. And so I think that they're kind of finalizing all that stuff. And by the time the Kickstarter fulfills, they'll be, squeaky clean, good to go.
And as far as like components, like the other cubes, it is very simple. It kind of like almost makes you feel like you're in the time. Like nothing too flashy. Yeah. Like it is what it is. Like because that's how it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's great.
I mean, it's a game that we love, and we legitimately love it. This is a paid, promotion here, but if I'm being real, like this is legitimately a game that we at Love Thy Nerd love.
Erin said she woke up last night at 4 a.m.
This is a true story.
Thinking about like how she may have played the game wrong and how she wants to play it again, and she's like, I just want to play it again and I want to do it again and make sure we're doing it right because we did it, but like were we doing it right? So I was like, okay, like yeah, absolutely, I'll play with you again for sure.
So if you want to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, this is the game
for you. This is the game for you.
If you're too, if you don't want to waste all your time sleeping the day away, commission the call.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, Chara Games knocked it out of the park.
For sure.
Obviously, I don't think that this game is for everyone. I said that in our original review for Commissioned. But I do think that it is for obviously homeschool families, and I think that it's for people who are strategists. Whether or not you are Christian.
Right.
I think that that's completely
I was going to say that.
superfluous.
It doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not. This is an enjoyable game for all.
But if you are, or if you want to learn more about the history and the stuff and the biblical aspects, there is an appendix in this box, in the base box, that actually just, that's the whole book, is just the historical, biblical
awesome.
accounts. So,
pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, hey, we recommend it.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, you'll see us on this box here with an LTN loves this game. Love Thy Nerd loves this game. So we highly recommend it. We think that you should go out and get it, make it a part of your game shelf, and tell your friends about it. Invite them over.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and have some hard times. If you beat it the first time out, you played it wrong.
Up the difficulty.
So hey, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today, and we hope that you check out the Kickstarter. Figure out everything that you need to do. All that information is going to be in the description on this video below. And for myself, Matt, and Bubba.
Wait, what?
I said I was Matt.
And I'm Bubba.
The Beard Bros.
The Beard Bros. I'm so confused.
I had a Bill and Ted moment just there.
One Bubba.
Hey, we'll catch you next time. And if no one else tells you this, remember it's true. And Jesus loves you, nerd.
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome, Bubba.
Okay.